Hey, what's going on, friends? My name is Tony Taylor, and I'm super excited. I'm really happy to invite you to join our next cohort. Again, I'm Tony Taylor. I am the host of Leaders Lead the Podcast. We are a top 3% global podcast. We've done some pretty incredible things in the podcast space. I didn't show you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that just simple people like me, normal people like you, we could rise through the ranks of podcasting. I know there's a lot of myths and a lot of untruths when it comes to podcasting. A lot of people are saying, oh, there's millions and millions and millions of podcasters, and it's a fad, it's a trend. But let me tell you, there aren't billions and millions of podcasters that are steady making episodes. I talk to people every single day that tell me, hey, I would love to make a podcast. And they're going to do all of this stuff and they do this, they do that. And then you look down the road and you see that they've quit, they've burnt out on the fifth or the sixth episode. My friend, that won't be you. You and I working together, I'm going to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to build a successful podcast. And I'm going to show you exactly how I've built my podcast. I'm going to give you the exact blueprint that I use to build my own stage in podcasting. Podcasting actually, I would say, and this is no exaggeration, it sounds like a huge exaggeration, but podcasting, it saved my life. I started my first podcast in 2018. I was a motivational speaker. I needed it to practice, to master my fear of public speaking. I didn't realize what I was doing. I was doing something that would help my future way beyond anything that I ever thought that I was capable that it was capable of. I thought I would just get in here, come in my home office, or then at one point it was a studio, and get on here and talk to people and master my fear of public speaking. But you know what? It raised my authority. It raised my influence. I started getting so many people reaching out to me, calling and booking me for to come speak on some of those stages. And I was known as a subject matter expert in leadership because of the things that I was talking about on my podcast with Leaders Lead the Podcast. Um, and then COVID hit, and it was one thing that was really special. I wish I had the image. I would pop it up here. Maybe I'll do it later. I'll pop it up. But COVID hit, and the BBC, they reached out to me and they wanted to know how I was able to continue to get so many jobs in public speaking when some of the big public speakers, their stuff was getting canceled. Well, I was doing things from home. I started doing things from home immediately. And then one of the things that I was doing was marketing myself with a podcast. So it's limitless. I ended up quitting my job, and it's fueling the things that I'm doing right now. And that is because of the podcast. So you're probably thinking, what does this look like? What does it look like for us to work together? What is this blueprint that you keep talking about? What does that look like? And what it looks like is what we'll do is we'll get together, and our first session, we'll talk about your purpose. You're probably thinking, well, I already know my purpose and I'm already on that path. But what I will do is I'll align that with your podcast. I'll ensure that you don't hit some of the bumps in the road like some of the people that I told you about before, where they start a podcast and then they'll stop it because they realize that there's something else that they want to talk about or something else that they want to do. I'll make sure that this podcast that you're going to create, it perfectly aligns with your purpose. And then I'll walk with you hand in hand, in helping you build that structure. And then we'll determine the medium. We'll determine if you're going to have a podcast like I had for many, many years, where it was just me behind the mic. I had this fear of public speaking. So sometimes I'll go in the closet and I'll just record, or I'll be in the car when I'm the most freest and I'll do it from that. Really, that's how my podcast was able to do so good, was because I didn't have to show my face in the beginning. So we'll work together and we'll figure out what would best suit you. And then phase two, we'll start worrying about the equipment. Now, a lot of people, they reach out to me, they're worried about the equipment. I don't want you to worry about the equipment. We're going to start working on the equipment. A lot of people, they'll reach out and they'll say, what kind of mic do you use? Or what's that thing that you do when you're streaming when I can hear the claps? Or like, so they ask different questions. What kind of camera you use? What are you using for lighting when you do your episode? So we'll work on that all together, and that will be dependent on your budget. I'll make sure that you get the right equipment so that you won't be like me in the very beginning where I had all of this equipment. I still got way too much equipment than what I needed. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars and I hit so many bumps in the road, but I did that so that you don't have to do that. I'll make sure that you have the equipment that you need that is going to fit exactly what you need it for, right? And then when it comes to the podcast hosting, you might be one of those people you want to put your podcast in, you want to have it on Spotify, or you want to have it on Apple, or you want to have it on Deezer or someplace like that. What I'm going to show you how to do is to get that podcast so that it can go to all of those places, so that you could be seen in all the major streaming networks. How does that sound? I'm talking like you could like I could hear you back, but I could just hear you saying, "Yeah, that sounds good." That was one of the bigger hurdles that I faced when I first got in the podcasting game. And then the last thing that we're going to do in phase two is we're going to put together a recording plan for you. The worst thing that I see that podcasters do is they just get on the microphone and they hit record and then they just start talking. You want to have a plan, and I'm going to create that plan for you. So phase three, we're going to create a marketing plan. Some of the stuff that you've seen when I showed it, it showed all of these different million video views and all of that different stuff. I would not have been able to grow the way that the podcast has been able to grow if I did not have a marketing plan. So I'm going to help you create a short and sweet, simple marketing plan that'll work for you and the things that you're already doing, right? So that you can receive maximum value. And then we're going to slide over to the recording trials. And during the recording trials, that's when you'll be doing the episode, you'll be doing some episodes, and I'll be working with you, giving you some critiques. Hey, I think you should do that. We'll add work on intros, we'll work on all the different nuances that you won't be able to see entirely by yourself. And then the last thing, that's when your podcast will be fully developed, and we will have already gone through the process of monitor, measuring, and adjusting it. It'll be fully developed. You'll have a fully developed podcast, and then we'll create a monetization plan for you. So with that being said, I would love to invite you to our next cohort. And in the cohort, we're going to work on all the things that I just talked about there in the Easy Podcast Blueprint. You're going to work with me every other week. We're going to come together and we're going to work on each one of those things together. And it's going to be in a community fashion. You'll have access not only to the cohort, but you'll have access to the community where you can ask questions 24 hours a day. That's kind of where I live, inside of that community. So I'm guessing there's going to be some times you're going to have some questions at night. You'll be able to type those questions in. You'll get an answer from me within a few hours. Give me 24 hours just in case I'm traveling or something, but you won't have to go at it alone. You'll also have access to our office hours. That's 1 or 2 times a month where you can come. You can ask me some questions outside of the group, and that is first come, first serve with everybody else that is in our community. But sometimes you need a little extra help, and you don't know when you're going to need that help. So that will be available for you. So with that being said, you can count this as your official invite into the podcast cohort so that you could build your own stage. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor. I hope that I see you inside of the group. If not, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Again, I'm Tony Taylor, and I'm super excited to see you, super excited to work with you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.